morning, biologists. We are on to module 16, last module of the year. Crazy. We're wrapping things up this year. After this video series, after you're done with module 16, take the test. You'll be done with every module. Do your quarter 4 test after that. Between now and that first weekend of May, get your paper done, and you'll be good. You'll be good to go. I'll get all of your tests recorded and sent back to you, and you a final grade for this class. I sure wish we could do it in person, but we can't. So look forward to seeing some of you guys next year in chemistry or advanced biology, whatever the case might be. So with that note, let's get moving. So this is not part of your material for module 16, but this is interesting, and this is an extra credit opportunity for some of you. What you see here is a radar map of the United States, but all of those blobs on radar is not weather, and it's also not coronavirus outbreak, if that was what you were thinking. What those radar blips are, those bubbles all across, especially the central United States, those are birds. Those are birds migrating north from Central America, especially. They are migrating to the upper states as weather warms. So what you see there are probably some Baltimore Orioles would be some of these radar patterns, rose-breasted grosbeaks, hummingbirds, certainly waterfowl like ducks and geese. So your homework assignment or your extra credit assignment is this. If you go out for me and take some pictures of some migratory birds, whether those are small birds or larger birds like geese, birds that are migrating through your area, I'll give you some extra credit for that. So up to 10 points, 1 point per picture. I want you to take a picture and send it to me, my email address, and identify what kind of bird it is. That's your responsibility for that. So, all right, speaking of birds, that's part of our topic today. Reptiles, birds, mammals, etc. So let's get right into it. Of course, we're talking about the animal kingdom. Our phylum is still Vertebrata, and we're getting into order and class here, right? And so we're going to talk class-specific creatures today. And let's start with class Reptilia. Class Reptilia. Important things about this class. Typically, they're covered with tough, dry scales. They're ectotherms, which means they respond to the temperature in the environment. They do not generate enough body heat alone for animation. They need heat, and so therefore they often will hibernate or partially hibernate either during cold nights or during winters. They have lungs. They breathe with lungs their entire life. They have a 3-chambered heart, and they produce an amniotic egg, which does separate them from some other creatures in this category. Mostly oviparous, if you remember that. Some are oviviparous. And this class, Reptilia, includes snakes, lizards, turtles, crocs, and alligators, and dinosaurs would also be in this category. Of course, they are. All right, speaking of reptile eggs, let's talk a little bit about that. Reptiles have amniotic eggs, a shelled water-retaining egg that allows the reptile, some birds, most birds actually, and certain mammals to embryos to develop on land. And so these creatures are egg layers, much like the egg that you may have eaten for breakfast. A chicken lays an amniotic egg, but a chicken is not part of the class Reptilia. Let me start right here with the outer surface of that egg, the shell. All right, the shell is the protective covering. Inside of that protective covering, the shell is over here, the albumin. The albumin is in a developing egg that will hatch. That albumin is a clear white fluid used for nutrients If you boil an egg, the albumin is what becomes white. From there, we have the yolk nutrients, the yolk sac, and the chorion, the outer covering of that yolk and yolk sac. Everything else inside of that would be your egg yolk, and as it develops, it gets larger because our embryo gets larger, right? Everything else is a amniotic cavity, protective coating for the embryo, amnion, and allantois. 4 living orders of the class Reptilia. We have testudines, turtles, squamata, snakes and lizards, crocodilia, crocs and gators, and Rhynchocephalia. Rhynchocephalia is the most unique. There's only 2 surviving species of this order, tuatars, and that's it. They're lizard-like reptiles. Order Squamata, snakes and lizards, my least favorite order. I am not a fan of snakes at all, quite frankly. So let's talk about that. Our suborder Serpentines. Snakes, as you know, have no limbs. They can't hear. That might be something unique to you. They have specialized scales on their bellies for locomotion called scuties. And snakes have no eyelids. Their eyes are always open, which makes them that much creepier. Now, our lizards, a little more friendly, don't you think? Suborder Sauria. They have 2 pairs of limbs, so 4 legs. They have ears, they can hear. They have uniform scales throughout, unlike the snake that has a different scale on the underbelly. And they have eyelids. They blink. They're normal. They're friendly. Well, kind of friendly. All right, so our lizards at suborder, here's an example of the variety, just God's variety on this earth of lizards, from our gecko to our chameleon, our iguana, horned lizards, large lizards like the Nile monitor. That thing is huge, and it runs faster than you, so careful. Our serpentines are venomous snakes. Let's talk a little bit about those nasty creatures. Coral snakes, cobras, kraits are venomous, as are the viper, the adder, and the sea snake. Of course, the viper in our area would be what? A rattlesnake, right? Let's talk a little bit about that, though. Snakes have something called Jacobson's organs. Those are sensory pits in the mouth. Makes up for their deafness and poor vision. They are astutely sensitive to their environment because of those Jacobson's organs. Non-poisonous snakes, they eat by catching and consuming, just like you and I do. Some use constriction to kill their prey. Others just simply eat them alive and whole. Nasty. Our poisonous snakes, however, they use a few things to kill their prey. Some use neurotoxins, which is a poison that attacks the nervous system, and others use hemotoxins, which is a poison that attacks the red blood cells. In either case, they die. The prey dies. Snake gets lunch. That's what it comes down to. All right, let's talk about discernment between venomous and non-venomous snakes. In our region, these 2 snakes do exist. A rattlesnake in Hudson, for example, would be extremely rare. But if you just drive an hour south to, for example, Pepin, or points south in the Mississippi River from Pepin all the way down the Mississippi River, those river bluffs do contain rattlesnakes. The prairie or timber rattler are going to be one of those 2. But they should not be confused with something you could see in your backyard this spring or summer, and that is the bull snake or the gopher snake. Very similar, as you can see in the picture to the left. The pattern of the snake and the striping is very similar. So what's the distinction? How are you going to know the difference? One, a bull snake or a gopher snake tends to have more of a blunt, rounded head, where the prairie rattler is more of a triangular shaped head. And the rattlesnake's going to give that rattle. it's going to sound a little bit like bacon sizzling. If you think of that, if you got the bacon on the pan real hot, that bacon sizzling is kind of going to be what you hear. A bull snake will wiggle its tail like a rattlesnake, but it doesn't have the rattles on there to make the noise. So something to keep in mind there. There are a few other distinct differences. The bull snake is a little more white, especially on the underbelly, than a rattlesnake, but I would want more confirmation than just that color if I was walking up to a snake. And for that matter, in my opinion, the best snake is a snake with its head under my heel. I am just not a fan of snakes. They serve a purpose. They serve a purpose. God has a purpose for them. They eat rodents, which we'll talk about as well. So they keep that population in check, but I don't like them. I don't like them at all. Here's another poisonous snake. Comparison to a non-poisonous or venomous to non-venomous. The poisonous snake here is the coral snake, the one on your left, and the scarlet king snake, non-poisonous. Now you're not going to see these in our area. They are, as you see on that little map there on the upper middle portion of the screen. They're in the lower United States. You can see them typically in warm and dry areas, but you might find them in some wet areas as well. So the coral snake is a poisonous one. That one will kill you, and it will do it quickly. Notice the color pattern differences here. Notice the coral snake goes from black to yellow to red to yellow to black, where the king snake goes from, if we start with black again, it goes black, red, black, yellow, black, red. And so the key here is if yellow is touching red, you're in trouble. So red and yellow will kill a fellow. Red and black, venom lack. So if you wanted to pet that king snake, you could. Still might bite you, but it won't kill you. Try to pet that coral snake and you're in trouble. You are in trouble. All right, that's it. We are done. We rolled through those slides extremely fast, which means that this is it. This is it for the year. We have finished module 16, so study, do the study guide, take your test, finish those modular tests, get the grades into me or send me the test and I'll grade it for you. Take the quarter 4 exam sometime in the not too distant future as you study appropriately for that and get a little extra time. In fact, if you want to, that test can be open book, open note, just learn the material. That's the key. Have fun with that. And then finish that position paper. So go right ahead and finish that up. Get that to me. You can email it to me, and we'll get you a final grades here in early May. It's been a true blessing, a pleasure to be your teacher this year. This has been an unusual year. I've never done all of these online, and certainly it isn't ideal. Again, any labs you can do at home, please do. Extra credit, go ahead and go out and photograph some migratory birds, send them to me for extra credit. And gang, I look forward to seeing you in real life, living color and in person next year. See you soon. Bye-bye.